take aesthetic and useful notes. Firstly, before I tell you my tips on taking neat notes, I've noticed that there's a stigma around this aesthetic note-taking concept, where many people think that because people like me try to make our notes pretty and presentable, that we aren't able to actually learn anything from them. Well, not exactly. Creating neat notes, in my opinion, allows me to better visualize the content in a more structured way. And of course, the creative aspect just genuinely makes it more enjoyable to take notes and to learn from them. Because in reality, taking notes isn't exactly the best pastime when I could be playing games or eating food. Anyway, here we go. So when you initially look at a page of notes, most of the time the first thing you'll notice is the text and the content of the page. And because this makes up literally 99% of the page, developing your handwriting into something you find visually pleasing is going to make your notes a lot more neat. Of course, just developing and completely changing your handwriting isn't easy, I know, and it's definitely going to take a lot of time and determination, but it's definitely worth it. So what I found worked for me personally was firstly identifying what exactly I wanted to change about my handwriting. The size, the consistency, the style. Then I compiled a really quick selection of handwriting styles that I wanted to mimic, and I took notice of the little details. So once you've found your style, then you have to consistently and regularly practice. I think it took me roughly 4 to 5 months to fully perfect my handwriting, and even now it's not perfect, but it's definitely better than it used to be. And after lots of practice, I already saw a huge difference within the first month. Here's some proof from some of my old notes. I've also heard that changing up your grip or how you hold your pen has an impact on the way you write, so just be free with it, just test it out, see what works for you. I've always stuck with writing like this, just because I find it easier to hold. As a high school student, I know the struggle of my teacher speaking at like 1,000 words per minute and me just sitting there like, what is going on? So what I do is I segment my notes. I take a rough class notes page, and then whenever I have time, I'll rewrite those notes to practice my handwriting. This ensures that I have all of the content and the time to write and practice. As you take notes, additionally try to stay conscious of your handwriting and eventually you'll get there. Next up, to take neat notes, you have to identify what type of structure you want to use. There are many ways in which people lay out their notes, and this is completely dependent on how effective one method is for a person. Normally, I follow what I call a free-flowing note-taking style, which is where I kind of note down everything on one page in a free-flowing, top-to-bottom style. But here are a few other types that I use too. One method I use in addition to the free-flowing method is the split page method. This is a method where you segment your notes into columns, most commonly 2 columns, as a way to visualize and structure your notes. This method is great if your content is very sectioned out, and is also a good method to use for summary notes. You could use the left column for keywords and the right column for explanations and diagrams. Another method I use is the sentence method, where instead of writing columns or organizing them into sections, you simply just write down each topic as a short sentence and continue to do this down the page. It's a great method to not only summarize the key points, but to also take down notes quickly, effectively, and neatly. Occasionally, I like to implement diagrams into my notes, and also there are plenty of subjects that require diagrams to fully explain various concepts. And if you don't see yourself as very artistic, then incorporating those detailed diagrams into your notes can seem like a disaster waiting to happen. But wait, instead you could resort to A. Using printouts. There are quite a few online diagrams that you can use in your notes. Just simply screenshot or download the diagram, ensure that it's a suitable size, print it out, cut it out, and then stick it onto your notes. This reduces the time you have to spend drawing a diagram, and it's also a clear way to visualize the content. If you don't have a printer and you don't want to draw freehand, you could also trace your diagrams like so. Or, if you don't like any of those methods, you could just take your chances and draw freehand. Now on to the smaller details. This basically includes titles, headings, arrows, color coding, highlighting, etc. Just a little note, don't go overboard with these elements because from personal experience, they can be really distracting and actually take away potential learning opportunities. My personal advice is to just be minimalistic and lenient with these. For highlighting, only highlight any important keywords or phrases that you want to section out from the rest. Keep your highlighting color consistent, and if you have multiple reasons to highlight, create a little key for yourself so you don't forget why you're highlighting something. For color coding, similarly, create a key for yourself and keep it simple. Don't try to implement hundreds of colors into one note page because trust me, it gets very confusing. For titles and subheadings, take all creative liberty. They can be super extra or super minimalistic, but it's completely up to you. For other miscellaneous aspects like arrows or boxes, make sure to use these sparingly and only when needed. For example, I'll use arrows to label diagrams or to link information to other information, and similarly I'll use text boxes to segment out any other important information like definitions. Overall, what I'm trying to say is note-taking should be effective and catered to you. Don't put yourself down by comparing your note-taking style to others' note-taking styles. Just be experimental with it and just understand that there is not one aesthetic you have to stick to. To be honest, making them more aesthetic should be enjoyable. So if you're not enjoying it, you're not going to like it and you're not going to learn from it. Hopefully this helped. Thank you for watching.